That's so much better. I hate to say it, but that looks a million times better. Anyways, I gave it a shot. For those of you who saw that last little live stream I just did, it didn't work. I was trying to use a GoPro. I had a feeling it might not work because there was too many features that I know have to be set um, on the YouTube app before I can go live, and none of those features came up. So not sure what's going on there. Anyways, I'm gonna have to watch some. I'm gonna have to read more on that and see if I can't figure that out because it would be nice to be able to utilize this little camera here. Um, because it will help because I can just use this, the GoPro to film, and then I can use my camera to read the live chat. So I'll figure it out eventually. But anyways, tonight I am double fisting it. I got some ice brew and then some hot brew. So a little bit of the best of both worlds there. But if you're just joining me, welcome. It's Friday night. We are discussing get home bags. So I have a lot of topics here, a lot to get into. Got a lot of notes here. So I've just been busy today. It was a hot day here in Idaho, but we managed to keep cool and get the projects done without overheating. So, um, yep. But I still got a lot more, even though it's like I can't believe we're already towards the end of July. And so I'm thinking, you live up in the Northwest, it's just like the summers are really just so short. All I'm really thinking of is just stockpiling the whole time, trying to stockpile as much money from work as much as I can, and do as much stuff as I can around the homestead, get stuff repaired, get my firewood procured, and all that because winter just it hits you. It sneaks up on you faster than you'd like. So, um, and you I don't know. Every year, I think every year I get a little bit better, a little bit more prepared, and I can handle my winters a little bit easier. So each summer, I'm able to do a little bit more, but I do have quite a list on my to do list for around the house and around the property. So I have some roof repairs that I have to do. So we have some good sized leaks coming in. So I'm going to be doing that. That's a priority. The other priority is our generator. Because for those of you who know, you live out in the Northwest or you just live out in rural areas, especially heavily wooded areas during the winter, when you get certain storms, you always have a couple down trees that take out electrical poles. So power outages are just a normal thing. But our power companies are pretty good for the most part. They usually are able to restore power within 24 hours, 48 hours at the most. But we have been known to lose power for up to, 72 hours and on. And then some of the more rural areas up north from us have lost power for almost at 2 weeks at a time. I think a few years back there was an area up north that lost power for like 2 weeks. So it was pretty bad, but I don't know. It's we haven't had anything that severe, but that is one of the topics. Is just kind of going through some of my weak points and in my preps, and most of them I can kind of do something about, but others are just gonna have to wait. There's all there's always, everybody has certain areas in their preparedness where it's just like the it's just too much of a financial burden to overcome. So I don't know. I guess someday maybe some of these goals will be met, but $1 at a time. But for those of you just joining, welcome to the channel. So before I get into the topics tonight, I want to thank everybody who got me, all my subscribers who got me to my 5,000 subscriber mark. It was like a huge feat for me. I can't believe that I've already reached 5,000. So it hasn't even been a year yet. Pretty close. I think I started this channel in August of last summer. So I'm coming up to the 1 year mark. So to have 5,000 subscribers before, 1 year has just been a huge. And so I thank everybody who made that possible and who've been watching my videos and commenting on my videos and subscribing and and thumbs upping the videos has just been huge. And so yeah, thank you to everybody. And so that was one of the things I kind of went and did for myself when I hit the 5,000 mark, was got myself a GoPro. So pretty cool. I'm still learning it. Still have a lot to figure out there, but yeah, I can't believe how quickly the channel grew. So, thank you to everyone. Oh, let me see. My comment thread isn't on. 1 second. Live chat. Okay, here we go. Midja Preparedness. My wife will be home. Can I build a going in the other direction? Hold on 1 second. On. Why is that not working? Hold on. Can I build a going in the other direction bag? That's hilarious. Yeah. Okay. All right. So you're going to see me throughout this video. I'm going to try to get to everybody's comments tonight. I was trying to do it with this GoPro. I had this set up, but it just, I don't know. I was having issues with it. I got to figure it out, but eventually I'll get this all figured out. I'm with you trying to get what I can, but this fake 3% inflation is costing, oh gosh, it's costing about 20%. Yeah, no kidding. The inflation's, yeah, certain areas are worse than others. I know the car market is still bad because I'm still in the market for a newer vehicle, and that has not changed. I mean, if anything, it's gotten a little worse. Yeah, I was kind of going through the financial market today a little bit and seeing what's going on. I mean, it looks like, I know that what is it? VRBO, that company is starting to tank. I think a lot of people got into it. Could get rich. I'm not quite sure what exactly sparked that, but a lot of vacation rentals. So that vacation rental market really started to nosedive. And I don't know if it's just VRBO, the company, that took the hit or what, but they were reporting like a huge downturn. The rental market is still strong, it seems like. But yeah, it's kind of we're kind of in a strange climate right now. I'm not really quite sure what's going on. I mean, the stock market just seems to be staying stagnant and just hovering at, at 33. And I'm in no way a finance guy, but and I just kind of looking at what's going on here. The real estate market here is gone down. Not a whole lot. I mean, it's not tanked, but it's probably come down 20% or so, something like that. So there's a few homes in our area, and I remember like 3 years ago, something like 2, 3 years ago. Maybe it hasn't even been that. Like maybe 2 years ago. 2 years ago, the market was just booming here. I mean, and you could not find like anything. And if there was like one thing that came up for sale, I mean, people were just fighting over it, and there'd be bidding wars, and it would just it ended up selling for way more than it was worth. Now you have these people that are probably have buyer's remorse just because heck's happening there? Um, because I think, and this is particular specifically for like the Northwest areas, is a lot of people kind of romanticize the idea of moving up into these rural areas where it's snowy and they're way out in the woods, and then they do 2 or 3, years, if that at best, and they're just tapping out. It's just they can't handle the snow and the ice, and especially here we have like a lot of really bad ice issues. I mean, the roads just get super icy because we'll get rains like in our winters, and it will just freeze stuff over, and a lot of the roads just get super treacherous during the winter because of the ice. So I'm not sure if is my live stream still going here. Okay. All right. So yeah. So what I was talking about, I had a lot of stuff going on today, and one of the things I've been working on, and it just dawned on me, is I'm kind of in the middle of creating a get home bag for my wife, and so this is the bag over here. So this is what I'm working on right here for her vehicle, and then I was doing some vehicle maintenance on her vehicle today. So just like greasing all the Zerk fittings and change the oil and stuff like that. Just off some fluid. So that's what I was working on today. So I'll just kind of show you real quick how I have this bag figured out. Since it is the summertime, I'm kind of doing like a focus on on like, if I'm kind of basically building a bag. This get home bag is, I'm building it based on the idea of really just walking home in high temperatures. So most of the stuff in here is just geared towards that. So I have a hydration bladder that's in this bag with the drinking tube that just runs on the shoulder strap here. And then in the front of this bag, and believe it or not, we worried about hurricanes. Oh yeah, right. I guess every state has its own, natural disasters or its own weather issues. That's for sure. But anyways, here, let me tilt the camera down a little bit here so you guys can see what I got going here. But anyways, this is the pack here. I bought this pack, believe it or not, like when my wife and I were first dating. This is like probably 11, 12 years ago. And I ended up buying 2 of these packs, but Midway USA was having like a crazy deal right before Christmas. And I don't know, for those of you who know that, but like MidwayUSA.com, and I'm not, affiliated with them in any way, but they do have amazing deals. And I try to actually buy from them. If I'm going to be buying any type of like tactical stuff or like bug out related stuff, I'll try to go there rather than buying it from Amazon first, just because I feel better about patroning that business rather than Amazon. But anyways, I bought these. I think I got both of them for like under $30 a piece, and they're like really good. I forget what this material is, but it's really good material. It's just a well-built bag. So in the front pouch here, there's 2 water bottles, and believe it or not, it's almost like that's how this pack is kind of designed. I don't know if you can see that, but there's just 2 pouches right in the front, which is like this admin pouch right here that carries these 2, that just fits these 2 bottles perfectly. Dante Wimbush, good evening, sir. How's it going? It's going good. Thank you. Yeah, if you guys are just showing up to the channel, just kind of going over my wife's, I'm just building a bug out or a get home bag for my wife. So this is something I'm gonna put in her vehicle. So yeah, the 2 water bottles in front in this admin pouch. There's a flashlight in here. I put some bug spray in here just because it is that time of year. There's just tons of mosquitoes out. We got a glow stick, actually 2 glow sticks. I have a battery charger in here. That is, I did fully charge this. Let's see. Where is the, yeah, fully charged. There's a couple pens in here. I always keep a Sharpie in my admin pouches and right in the rain pad. And then there's a poncho. We've got a poncho in here. And I started designing this actually a month or so ago. And so we were still kind of getting some rain. That's why I threw that poncho in. But now it's just so hot and dry. Not much need for a poncho at this point. But in this top pouch here, I put a roll of tape. Been watching all the videos. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy it. I have a little. This is like an S-bit stove. It's not an actual S-bit stove. It's kind of a knockoff, but pretty much the same exact build. So these are just aluminum little stoves, and they got these little fuel tablets that will burn for 5 minutes. So just, more than enough time to boil a big, a liter of water, make coffee or soup or something. And then in this little pocket here, I have some homemade fire starters. And then I have I put some stormproof matches in there for her. And then there's some ear protection just for shooting for her EDC pistol, which I do have here as well. I'll be showing you that in a minute too. So that's pretty much that for this pouch. This pouch, I'll go ahead and break open the main part of the sack here. And then here I just created a little miniature first aid. This is just like a boo-boo kit. So basic Band-Aids, Neosporin, that kind of stuff. So usually the type of medical stuff you need all the time. And this is like something that I've been thinking about trying to put together, is just these quick little, almost disposable boo-boo kits, even smaller than this. This is actually kind of bigger for a bigger boo-boo kit, because I actually have, what I put in here? I put like a roll of tape in here. I have some of these compressed paper towels. And then there's like a whole tube of Neosporin in here. I have alcohol swabs, disinfectant swabs, and then Band-Aids, and then some aspirin. So just basic. But I don't even, if I just took that roll of tape out, I could cut this little first aid kit, this boo-boo kit, in at like half the size. So probably something I'm going to start making and maybe selling on my eBay store. I don't know. And then the next thing here, just got like a hat just to keep the sun off her head. And then I have a just like a kind of a mylar blanket, but it acts more like a reflective tarp. It's like a shelter. So that's in here. This here is something I'm probably going to be switching out, but this is just an MRE. And the reason why is just because it's so hot. Do you have any experience with GeoPress water bottles? Getting one from ADC? No, I don't. I've seen them. They look nice, but no, I don't really have any experience with those. And then the next thing here is I just put in this is a mess kit that contains a like a pot, like a cook pot with a fuel stove, a fuel canister, a nesting cup, and then I got a titanium spork right here. And in the front pouch, I put in some like energy bars. There's some honey sticks, some coffee, instant coffee, of course a lighter, So everything she'll need in case she has to, she gets stranded and needs to hoof it home. And worst case scenario, stay a night. There's more than enough stuff to like build a shelter, and you probably stay alive for over a week with this bag. Eberly stock. What was that? Sorry, let me. I wish my live chats would just stay up. I don't know how to do that. Midget Preparedness says, wife Eberly stock bandit. Oh, I missed it again. Wife Eberly stock bandit. I keep the Eberly stock little trick. Not is that like a bag? Graylee Geopress, awesome. Just don't drop it. Yeah. So in this pouch here, this is like the front of the pouch. They got these two little compartment pouches here, which I really like. I like when bags are compartmentalized like this, and they just give you lots of areas to isolate certain aspects of your prep. It's like huge, rather than just trying to like pile all of your stuff into one big bag. I love it when they put pouches everywhere and allow you to compartmentalize everything like this. So right here is just a straw filter, and then a roll of paracord. And then in this top pouch, she put her, I got her the Laplander saw, and then I just bought her this this Mora knife. So classic, traditional Mora knife. I got this for like $10 at our sports store about 2 weeks ago. So that's just an awesome little knife. All right. Put that back. And yeah, let's see. And then in this back pouch here, I have, this is just a full tarp. So this would be a shelter. So this is what would, if you had to stay a night or set up this tarp, you could just string this up with the paracord. Yeah, you'd be just fine. You'd be dry in here. And a lot of times, I think this is actually a tarp that I bought, but sometimes, I found like old tents that just aren't doing me any good. I usually will keep the rain fly from the tents, and I'll vacuum seal them. I actually had like a couple bug out, like my first bug out bags, my shelter, my tarp was just rain flies from old tents that I just didn't use anymore, and I just kind of roll them up and put them in a Mylar or a vacuum seal bag like this. So yeah, anything to keep the rain out good. And then I have some cleaning wipes, and then I have a couple of cotton rags in here, put in here for, and then a 3 mil trash bag. So, I mean, if you guys can think of anything else, the one thing that she doesn't have is a and I'll probably get it for her for Christmas, we'll see, but is a multi-tool. So I'll probably get her a multi-tool. I know she's watching it, so yeah, surprise. Merry Christmas. You're getting a multi-tool, babe. She's like, exciting. Just what I wanted. All right, and then there's one last thing I just remembered. It's not a get home bag without this. Some emergency money. How much did I put in here? Hopefully I haven't robbed from this bag yet. Yeah, so we'll see how long that lasts. So, yep, just put some emergency money. I put about $50 in small bills. So, and that is about that for this bag. Like I said, the only thing I'll probably switch out is that MRE because in the summertime, it's like you keep one of these get home bags in your car, like in your vehicle, You know, when I'm at work, I come back into my car. The inside of my car is like 100 plus degrees, and I'm thinking, oh man, like the food that I have in here is not doing good. So keeping, I think like exposing those MREs to heat is like the worst thing you could do as far as them degrading. So something to keep in mind if you're going to be keeping food in your bags, and in your vehicles, and your vehicle's getting really hot every day, it might be a good idea to put some freeze dried food in there, something like that. So, but they are get home bags. I mean, I don't know if like an MRA is kind of overkill. So this is really, it's a get home bag, but it's also like a 72-hour bag. So that's kind of why I threw the MRE in there. So, but anyways, that is the bag. If you guys have any suggestions on stuff I may have forgot, let me know. All right, moving on here. So yeah, like I said, I was just, oh yeah, one more thing. So I was gonna show you her EDC. So this is her EDC here. It's basically the same thing I have. This is a Smith and Wesson Shield, chambered in 9mm, and this is like the custom. It's a customized edition. And go ahead and safety check this weapon. And yeah, it was a customized pistol that I got for about 5-6 years ago. Customized by Performance Center, and they just put in these optics right here. I think there's like the True. I'm not sure what the make of these are, but like the True Glow illuminated optics there. So it's pretty cool. And then they fluted the barrel there. So, and then she's just got like a outside carry there. Sorry, I missed that. I keep natural energy powder mix for water and some energy bars, natural caffeine. Yeah, I keep that's usually mostly what I keep in my bags is just I'll keep honey and stuff like that. I keep some protein bars. As far as like the caffeine, I used to keep like these caffeine tablets, and then what I came across were these caffeine jelly beans. So I've been keeping those in my get home bags. They seem to work pretty good. All right, moving on. So yeah, I was just doing vehicle maintenance today, and the family and I are getting ready to go on a camping trip here. Yeah. So yeah, I'm getting ready to do a camping trip here pretty soon with the family. So I've just been busy getting the camper ready, and you know, this part of Idaho that my family and I are living in, we've been here for 4 years now. We've been living in Idaho for 9 years total. And you know, we're pretty familiar. I mean, we drove up and down the whole state quite a few times and saw a lot of different areas, and settled where we ended up settling. But it's always good, you know, it's just so big. It's always good to get out there, and I try to take advantage of, like, we go camping. I you know, take advantage of the camping trips to like familiarize myself with the outlying areas, and just to kind of know where certain. Lived in Idaho Falls for 3 years as a kid. Yeah, Idaho Falls is where's that? That's like way south, isn't it? Near the southern end. So yeah, it's just a good opportunity to familiarize myself with the different areas. You know, explore new territories for, you know, possible bug out stuff, bug out locations, and let's see. and possible like relocations. I don't know. I mean, we're kind of at that point. The area that we're in is getting pretty busy. It's getting pretty crowded, so we're always kind of keeping an eye open for possible just new areas to live. So kind of had my eye on some more like southern, or at least it's southern to us, but kind of more central, eastern central areas of Idaho. So that's kind of where we're going to be going camping. So we're going to be looking into it. Billings, Montana was nice, but cold. Lived there for 2 years. Yeah. Montana's beautiful. It's funny. You can always tell, like when you're in Idaho, you can just tell when you're getting close to Montana. Just by it's just weird, crazy how drastic the landscape changes. Just in terms of like the trees and the vastness of all of it, and the mountain ranges totally change. It's weird. It's like when they were sit when the design or whatever, the people were staking their claim of Idaho, is like they got too close to an area that it just looked too frontierish for them, and that's where they drew the line. It was like they started getting too close to the frontier, and that's where they established the state line. um so yeah, like I said, I mean, the this summer is just kind of, we're already at the end of July going into August. I still got a ton of work to do, and I've only tackled like half of my projects. I've been spending a lot of time on stuff that's not even really priority, which is not good. And this is how you ultimately get behind on your obligations. But at some point I'm gonna have to get like hyper focused on procuring the firewood. I got a lot of firewood, but like I said, I got a log splitter this year. That was something I actually bartered for with a job. There was a house down the street from me that came up for sale, like real quickly, like out of the blue. And the people were, it was a husband and wife, and they were getting divorced. And so there was just like a huge liquidation of household goods. So one of the things that they was on the chopping block was a wood splitter. So I got a sweet deal on that. I just traded, because they were trying to get their house listed. So I traded them painting work for a log splitter. So it worked out well. So I'm excited to finally have a wood splitter. I've been just procuring all of our winter wood by hand for the last 3 years. So it's been rough. Um, let's see what else. Said I did the vehicle repair. Some of the other things I have going, I got a lot of repairs to do on our roof. Have some plumbing leaks I gotta fix, and then yeah, I've been working on our camper, trying to get that ready, and yeah, already talked about the real estate. So yeah, I mean, as far as my prepping right now, like the weak points, our biggest weak point is kind of like, well, the biggest weak point is the power situation here. So we're like totally reliant on the grid from like a power standpoint. I mean, we everything runs off of electricity at our home, like the well, the septic, lights, obviously, refrigeration, all everything is pretty much just except for the heat. I mean, but the water heater runs off is electric. Everything. There's no gas here. And so when the power goes out, I mean, we lose everything. So we have a generator, but it's just barely it's having issues. So I that's something that I, even if the generator is working, it's still a weak point, because if the power was to go off for more than 3 days, and I'm just making trips to I got to keep that generator going and fed with gas, which is a whole nother issue. And then you run out of gas, then you're just like stuck in the mud there. So it's definitely my weakest, you know, prep there. So ideally, if I could change things around and get into a new home, um, it would be a lot more energy efficient. Um, but one of the main things would want to get away from is having a septic system that runs off power, because the way that our house is situated on this hill is just we're basically on a hill. I'm gonna read that. Um, PH Expat Prepper said I went with a dual fuel gen and store 6 large tanks of LPG. Yeah, yeah, we have a dual fuel generator, and what I found is that the generators, when you're running them off propane in the winter, that doesn't work as well. So I had to switch over to gas during the winter because it just lost a lot of its oomph. The propane just gets really weak when it's cold out. So, but one of the projects I was working on this summer was an area for the generator to go. Believe it or not. So, because the generator we have is so freaking loud, that's another thing. It's so loud, and so if you were in a bad situation, Tempest using them here. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Um. Yeah. The generator we use is just so loud that I mean, if we were in a situation where we were trying to kind of keep a low profile, the generator would be giving us away because it's so loud you could hear it from miles away. So I was kind of built an area um, where it's almost kind of underground, so to kind of muffle the sound a little bit and just keep it out of the way and out of view. But it is a weak point. We do have water here, but it's not all that great. We have a low producing well, and the really, when you have a low producing well, the solution to those low output wells is just getting a cistern tank. And I was actually at a I have a job here starting here pretty soon, and I was just talking with the new customers. Major preparedness practice the get home bag from work in June. Sorry, these I'm trying to figure out a way to keep these your comments up because they show up and they only stay on the screen for like a minute. I wish there was a way I could figure out how to keep these here. Hold on 1 second. Bear with me. Anyways, practice get home bag work in June was impossible to avoid people 20 miles, 6 hours. I felt miserably most of the time I spent avoiding. Yeah, that's good that you're running drills. That's important. Um, I thought about doing a video, um, kind of practicing something like that. Um, but I don't know. It'd be good just to kind of know. I mean, I could just see how far I can walk uh, with my get home bag before I start getting really winded, you know. So everybody has issues. Uh, okay to drop a link here. I mean, if you're gonna drop a link, you can email me through my about page, all my contact info. I've got an email there if you guys want to email me with anything. I also have a PO box I just got, so if you guys are interested, in sending me mail or something, I have a PO box that I can put out. It's something I should have put up on my on the channel, but I haven't gotten around to it. I just got it like 2 days ago, but I think it's like, I don't remember it by heart, and I don't even remember where I put it. It's like PO Box 2923, uh 83816 is the zip cord. Yeah. So anyways, I'll leave it up on the I'll put it on my contact portion of my about page if you want to contact me, but don't be putting any personal information on this screen, on this live chat, unless you want it getting out to everybody. um so yeah, the cistern tanks, I just met with a couple, and they had like a really, it was like a really bad water situation where I think their well was like 460 feet deep, and they were probably only pumping out like maybe 2 gallons a minute, and it wasn't even good water. And yeah, that's just, unfortunately, the area where I am, it just has uh it's just notorious for that kind of a situation. Just not a lot of water, with not a lot of water deep in the ground. Tons of water on like surface level. I mean, there's natural springs everywhere. It's a really strange situation. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the with the agriculture, or the with the ground that makes it that way. But yeah, we have springs everywhere. And one of the things I did before we had our well put in was I witched the property, with copper rods, and I had a hard read, like right near the front of our property. I mean, it was just a hard hit, hard indication, whatever. And so I told the guys, here, hit it, put the well right here. And sure enough, like, we hit water within 30-35 feet. So technically, you're not allowed to take water within the first 35 feet. And so, and I don't know what was going on with this well company, if they were just unexperienced with aquifers, because it was clear that that's what happened. So anyways, they hit 15 gallons a minute, which is like a lot of water for where we are, at 38 feet. And so they asked, so I get this call, do you want to stop or you want to keep going? And I go, stop. I mean, 15 gallons a minute, that's huge for this area. So they stop drilling, and then I get a call 10 minutes or whatever, 10 minutes later, and they go, yeah, we're sorry to let you know, but it's actually more like, somewhere between 8 and 10 gallons a minute. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that's fine. I mean, 8 and 10 gallons a minute, that's still good for here. And then I get another call. Actually, it's somewhere between 3 and 5 gallons a minute. I'm like, okay, well, now that's pretty much average, is it's like actually what you kind of expect to get here, 3 to 5 gallons. But to pick it up at 38 feet was actually good. So luckily we didn't have to drill, 400, 500 feet before we got 3 gallons a minute. And paid 80 grand for a well. So got lucky there, but clearly that's what happened. That first read was just an aquifer read. They were just tapping into the aquifer. So, and a lot of the old timers that live around here, they actually, that's pretty much all that's how they get their water, is from the aquifers, because all their wells are just grandfathered in. So the original people that moved here, back in the 50s, 60s, um, they were just, drilling their own wells and just going into the aquifers and then pumping it out with like a regular water pump. And it's still the way they, it's just still the way they feed their homes with water. So whatever, it is what it is. And I don't think it really, like, I don't know how much it affects the actual groundwater here, because I mean, I'm sure it does, um, but yeah, like I said, it's just, there's not a lot of groundwater deep into the ground around here. If you go up north, like 35 miles more, there's nothing but water. So there's certain areas where it's like you can't miss. There's just, water everywhere. and the well companies can actually guarantee water for people. Let me read this this chat real quick. Oops. Rusty Shackelford. Our bug out bags have cash, spare credit cards, burner phones, a copy of documents such as deeds, VA records, vax, exchange of clothes, toiletries, dog stuff, and spare G43s. Yeah, that's a good one. A lot of people forget the burner phone thing is good. I actually have a burner phone wrapped in a EMP box. But yeah, the documents and all that stuff is that's a huge thing. A lot of people forget that stuff. So things I prep for, the food, all this is, the main prep is really just preparing for an economic collapse. And I'm preparing for my, people go, "Oh, whatever." I'm preparing for my own experience during an economic collapse. So, I was very much at the, ass end of the 2009 financial collapse. And my preparedness is all based around everything that took place at that time. Rusty Shackelford, yeah, yeah, Faraday bag, super cheap. Yeah, they say, I just wrap the whatever component. So if you have like a radio, just take the antenna off and then wrap your radio, like I think it's like 3 wraps of tinfoil, and then put it in a metal ammo can, and you should be good. So, and if you're not certain, they say the way to test for it is you can do that to a cell phone. Put like three wraps of aluminum of tinfoil around your cell phone, and then put it in a ammo can, and then call it with your wife's phone or whatever. And if it rings, it's not, you need more wraps. If it doesn't ring, you're good. So that's how you know you're protected from an EMP. As far as I know, I'm not a scientist or whatever, but I'll tell you what, though. I mean, people talk about those EMPs like, like as if it's just something that could happen or whatever. An EMP, like I tell you what, that would like be by far the most devastating thing that could happen to this world. I think it would be worse than a nuke, in my opinion. That'd be like worse than like, you know, every major city getting nuked. Because if we got a hard EMP that just knocked out the power grid nationwide, I mean, you wouldn't be able to come back from that. And you're talking like, I mean, things would literally just burn. I mean, the whole world would just disintegrate. I mean, think about what you wouldn't have access to. And the one thing that comes to mind, I mean, fire started, you'd have no way of putting fires out. So fire start, the fires just go. I mean, there's no fire trucks. There's no way to pump water. There's no aircraft to put out fire. So just right there alone, I mean, that would just be devastating. The other thing that would be really devastating is the sanitary systems would come, so you have no way to dispose of waste, and that would get bad real quick. I mean, you're talking like mass spread dysentery that would just wipe out everybody. The water systems would, I mean, you wouldn't have water, and the water systems would just become contaminated immediately. It would just be bad. I mean, you can look at a lot of these inner cities and see what's going on, like with the people there who are just defecating in the streets. It would. Government says 90% of emergency. Yeah, it would be bad. And the only way I could see surviving something like that is like being way out. Like you'd have to be out in the woods, away from civilization, so that you survive the civil unrest that would be taking place, and two, the amount of dysentery that would be taking place. I mean, you're talking like hepatitis, like all the diseases that would be coming from people defecating and urinating everywhere, it would just be bad. It would be a bad scene. It would be massive disease pretty quick. So, yeah, not a pretty sight. That's for sure. Yeah, people would not be able to cope with that. Um, let's see here. Yeah, the other projects I have going on, my ATV just started having issues, so I just got that loaded. I got to go take that into a shop. I'm pooping at the house up the road with the Biden 2024 sign. Yeah, just use it as ass wipe. I don't think I've ever seen a Biden sign in my ever. We are moving down to Rome from Eastern Washington, trading wildfires for tornadoes. Back to the farm, land, and home my spouse was raised on. We inherited for free. Wow, nice. Good deal. Yeah, it sounds awesome. Yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, for those of you who may be trying to figure out a way to obtain, land and get out of the cities and get to a more rural area, I tell you this, and because I hear a lot of excuses, people, and one of the main excuses is like, there's nowhere to work. That's the one you hear. And I mean, it depends. I mean, I don't know for those of you who are doing tech stuff and you're relying on, I don't know, uh, you need some type of enterprise like in the area to like work from, like a factory. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but I'll tell you right now, from like a trade standpoint, whether you're, and it doesn't matter like what trade you're in, painting, construction, handyman type stuff, HVAC, electrician, that work can be found anywhere. People are just dying for people in the trades to do work. I mean, it's bad. So, and especially you'd be surprised in these rural areas because a lot of people, a lot of the retired like baby boomer generation, they just have they have a lot of money, they have a lot of wealth, and they're moving out to these rural areas to retire, and they have big homes. They can't do all the work anymore because they're aging, and they have the money, and it's hard to find people in these rural areas, especially reliable people. So, for instance, like me, is like the first town we lived up in. It was funny because it was a small town, but it was really spread out. People didn't realize that it was that there were really rich um, like really big rich homes everywhere. They were kind of like hidden, and some of them that were, people just stayed there. They were kind of like their bug out homes, and a lot of them just stayed there during the summer months and then would leave during the winter, and they would be looking for people to do maintenance. And so I was just slammed with work in this small town. And it was one of the first things that people said when I moved up, my family and I moved up there, was like, yeah, it's really beautiful here, but you're not going to find any work. And man, were they wrong. I had gobs of work, more work than I could handle. But it's, believe it or not, it's the bigger areas, the more populated areas where it's a lot harder to find work. Eastern Washington, not wanting to raise kids in Washington. Raise kids in Washington is a big part of it, and cheaper, usable on land everywhere. Yeah, I wouldn't want to raise kids in Washington either. I mean, it's hard to raise kids anywhere at this point. I mean, our kids are homeschooled, and at this point in time, being a parent in 2023 is extremely difficult because it's like all you're doing is just trying to shelter your kids from this like rampant degeneracy that is just plaguing this country. And Western civilization for that matter. And so it's taken everything in our power as parents to do to try and shelter for that. And one of the most difficult parts of it is that you don't get a lot of support. It's like trying to find the support. Obviously, the area we live in, most of the people here are like minded. There's a lot of young families, and I would say 95%, if not more, are here for that reason. Like they're here to like basically escape the degeneracy, get to a more freedom minded area, more conservative area where just people aren't participating in a lot of this just like this crazy culture that's taking place. And but a lot of the older generations are just not experienced with it. Rusty, your family will be better off. Yeah, okay, you guys are just communicating with each other. um so yeah, I mean, if I always say, I mean, if you're thinking about homeschooling, I mean, you just kind of have to make it work. It's obviously easier said than done. Um, and it's a thinking ahead game. If you're really young and you don't have kids yet, I'll tell you what. Um, I'll tell you what. If you're young and you don't have kids yet, start prepare. But you want a family, start preparing now for your family. And making those kind of preparations. And as believe it or not, that's actually what I had to do. Um, I had to you take advantage of that, of the luxuries that come and the benefits that come with being single and not having kids, with the ability to stay, just work full time and save all your money. And that's I think the key. um, and you just kind of have to like screw like the mainstream like thinking about finance and just the way we've been doing it as a society, where we take out these huge home loans and big car loans, and everything just gets put on a credit card, or you're taking out loans. I mean, that is just not a viable way of living. It's just not. I tried it and it destroyed me. And I was like, I was working two full-time jobs just to keep like a mediocre financial, lifestyle going. And it still all came crashing down at the first sign of trouble. I mean, as soon as our economy hit like a rift, I mean, if you're just maxed out financially, you're not going to be able to. It's like I know so many people that they really think that because they can afford the payments that means that like that's their lifestyle. They just think that like because I can afford this payment, that means I can afford this car. And it's like, no, that just means you can afford the payment. You can't afford the car. It's just kind of a lot of bad thinking we have to undo. That And it just starts with this, the younger generations I think are starting to kind of wake up to it and realizing it's just not a viable way of getting by. And it may have worked for a short period of time, but things are different now. It's like the person was saying in the chat, I mean, with inflation, everything that's going on, interest rates going up, I mean, the economy is just so unstable. You have just like a a really bad mindset of people coming into the workforce. There's just a really lackadaisical trend that you're seeing coming into the workforce. A lot of people just don't want to work, and if they do, they don't work hard. There's no respect. There's no professionalism. People aren't taking their career seriously. They don't take their trade seriously. It's the work is done sloppily. That's a word. And yeah, it's just getting bad. And I mean, each day I just think, God, I'm gonna have to like. There's another area in my preparedness that I'm going to have to focus in on, and one of them is just like trying to like learn how to do more stuff myself, particularly with the vehicles, and just learning as much as I can about doing my own vehicle repair, because that stuff's getting more expensive. vehicles are getting more expensive and the quality is going way down. Um, I've spoke with mechanics and asked them, hey, like, if I'm going to buy a new vehicle, what should I get? And they just shake their head. They're like, nothing. Don't get anything. They're like, it's all just garbage right now. Way overpriced and poorly designed, poorly made. So yeah, pretty grim. I mean, I try not to focus on that stuff. I know it sounds like I'm being totally nihilistic here, but I would say that the bright side, and I'll tell you what, there is a huge bright side to all of this, which is, and I was getting to it before, is that these younger generations are really starting to wake up. And you hear that saying, strong men make good times create weak men create bad times create strong men, and it's that cycle. And that's where we're at right now, I think. And what's happening is there you had, and what you're going to see is you're going to see bad times make weak men. It's You're going to see bad times turn weak men into strong men. That's what you're starting to see. You're starting to see a lot of people like realizing that, like, um they got to get sober. Like, they got to get sober. They need to start, cleaning up their act. They need to start exercising, and thinking long term. And that's the ticket. I think that's the key to all of this, is thinking long term, thinking as far down, like far ahead as you possibly can. And my advice to a lot of young people, I tell you, like in my position, is like, save your money and keep, like, especially in the beginning, because and you can make this happen, because the sooner you get ahead, the more leverage and just the better your life is going to be. And it really doesn't take that much effort if you can keep your overhead low, which means you're going to have really good impulse control, meaning you're going to have to reserve, the impulse to go out and buy the new car, the brand new vehicles, buy new clothes, that kind of stuff, going out to the coffee shop every morning, going out to eat all that time. That stuff is going to have to stop. And it doesn't have to stop for that long. It just has to stop. I tell you what, it just has to stop for a few years, and you'll be surprised, you'll be shocked how quickly you can save money and accumulate money in a short period of time if you are getting that serious about, your expenditures. And so, the greatest thing I did is I committed like 2 years of my life, um, to just saving money and just not spending money. Like, all I was doing, and I was cashing everything, because that was another thing. Because I had the having an ATM, like a debit card, is like the worst thing ever, because you're just swiping it all the time. And it's just an easy way to burn through cash. So one of the first things I did was I got rid of my ATMs and my ATM cards and my debit cards for a while, and I just did everything cash. And so that way, and then when I would deposit or cash out my checks, I got everything in large bills. So that way it just made it a lot harder, to go out and buy, frivolous stuff, because you can't just walk in to a coffee shop, and buy a cup of coffee with $100 bill. At least it's not going to be as easy. So just little things like that. I just put little, restraint. I put some restraints on myself, and I accumulated. My wife and I had accumulated enough money. This is actually before we were even married. This was like just when we were dating, and when we were dating, my whole goal was just getting debt free and creating a life that was debt free. Um, Basically, from the standpoint of, like, really just like a kind of a survival mindset, where I just knew that my shelter, just like in a survival situation, your shelter is your number one thing. It's the most sacred thing you have, is your shelter. That is the first thing that has to come first, and nothing can be more. uh secured than that. And so as so long as you can secure your shelter, you can secure everything. You can secure your family, you can secure everyone. As long as that thing is fortified, your shelter is totally fortified financially and physically. I mean, you're like 90% there. And so for 2 years, my wife and I we were just dating at the time. We just focused on saving money. We had modest jobs. I mean, like I said, I was just a painter and I worked alone. I was working by myself. Every once in a while I have like one guy help me, but I was just painting like apartments, not anything huge, some like kind of medium residential homes. And my wife was a hairstylist. So we were both making comparable incomes, but about making the same amount of money. um, and this is in a rich part of California, but it was during kind of a bad time when the economy wasn't all that great. Um, and we were able to accumulate, the both of us, enough money. Well, for me in particular, I had paid off all my debt, and but to buy a really dumpy house in far, far North Idaho before the big boom. And we were happy. I mean, we were happy. I don't know how happy she was. She was kind of like, "What the hell have you dragged me into?" But um, but it was like, "Hey, yeah, it's a crappy house, but we own it. We own it outright." And then the second thing I did was I bought 3 years worth of property tax in silver. Um, and that's all the silver I own. My silver, I have enough silver that represents 3 years of property tax for the home that we own outright. And it's just a tiny little 2 bedroom house in a small town, and right now we just rent it out. And it you know and but is like one of the greatest things we ever did, because we never would have survived up here. And I knew that too. I'm like, if I'm going to go move to a new place where I have no work secured, I don't know anyone, um, I am going to have like no, almost no bills. So when we moved here, I was thinking like the only way this is going to work is if my monthly um, nut to break is just like food and like a cell phone bill, and that's about it, and utilities. And so that's what we got it to. And I was like, stay under that, we'll be fine. Because if we had like rent or like a mortgage payment, there's no way we would have pulled it off. There's just no way. Because that was the other thing. It was that when our when we were building a family, it was like we already knew we were going to be homeschooling. So that means I'm going to be working. I'm going to be the sole provider. Um, which means it's like, and I'm just painting houses. I don't make a lot of money. Plus, I'm in a small town. Plus, I'm working by myself. So I knew I wasn't going to be generating a lot of money, especially in the wintertime where the work just comes down to a trickle. So we did what we did, and it worked, and it paid off, and I was able to make just enough money, and I could keep the lights on, keep everybody fed, and we're all happy. And my wife was able to stay home and homeschool the kids, and it all worked out. But that's the only way that would have worked out, is by not having those major bills that most people have. So if there's a way, like I said, and those of you who are young, and you're single, try to do that. And it's still totally achievable. A lot of people are like, "Oh, well, how am I supposed to pay off a house?" Whatever. There's still places, and you'll see it. The real estate market probably come back down. I mean, in normal, but there's still places that are like really affordable. You'd be surprised on how many $50,000 homes, like 40, $38,000 homes, like we came across. Um, which is a totally doable number. And especially you get married, two people saving up money. I mean, if you can't save up 15,000, I mean something's wrong. So That was the goal. We saved up a good chunk of cash and we bought a home outright. And then we spent 5 years fixing it up and then we rented out. And that's how we did it. But yeah, homeschooling is key. Let me, Rusty Shagford, that's the stage we're at. Very few bills when we move. Crazy that we will make off our home in this market. My wife and I can both work immediately just based on the family and our education level. Father was a paint contractor. I've painted too many houses and commercial properties. Now I work aerospace machining, no ladders. You work aerospace machining, no ladders. What does that mean? No ladders? Oh, I gotcha. No more ladders. Yeah, you really were a painter. That's probably the biggest gripe of painters is just being on a freaking ladder all day, every day. Wears out your knees quick. That's for sure. Um. So, anyways, homeschooling it's key. There's just if there's a will, there's a way. You can make it happen. I think most people, what I found when I have this discussion with people, is they just don't want to give up their luxuries, man. I mean, people just they get set on a certain lifestyle, a certain way of living, and they just can't give it up. I'm like the exact opposite. I've gotten so used, like literally, I have the exact opposite problem where I've gotten so used to just living frugally that I can't live of it. And so, uh, I don't want to take on like any bills. Like I don't want to take on any type of payments. But sometimes, like I get it, it's necessary. But you can be responsible about it. I mean, you don't have to buy a brand new vehicle. Um, buy for sure, buy used. There is like um some metric there. I know like where it's like, if you know like based like on how much money you make. Like if you make this much money, here, let me read this. Agreed. I think most underrated prep is a spare vehicle. Kids, keep them off social media as long as you can. Yeah, for sure. Keep the kids off social media. That was like almost, it was shocking. Like that was like kind of one of the big reasons why I was like, I don't want my kids to go to a public school or just somewhere where they're not supervised, because it was like you could go and you could find the best school ever. Because I had a friend that did this. He found that you can go get the private school and you have all the PTA meetings and make sure that all your teachers are really good. They're not going to be doing any type of nefarious, weird, degenerate stuff with your kids, and everything could be good, and you could be fine. And then, but then recess comes, and like if these schools are allowing their kids to bring cell phone ins, I mean their cell phones in, they're not monitoring this stuff. And I've heard these stories where like my friend was spending all this money sending his kid to this private school that he felt like it was, oh, okay, my kids are going to be safe, they're not going to be learning any weird crazy stuff. And then come to find there's like some kid that's bringing his cell phone into the onto the playground. This is like an elementary school. This is like not even junior high. This is like elementary school, and he's just showing porn to all the kids. Like, and I mean, hardcore, crazy porn. But at the school ground, it's like that's the kind of, to put things into perspective at the time we're living in. Like that's this kind of stuff that's going on. Like that's the kind of stuff that we have to face these days. It's just like crazy. And I heard that story and like I didn't even think about that. And I was like, oh man, yeah. I mean, and the thing about that, people don't, because that's one of those issues. I mean, clearly, like you know, the pornography thing, I think, is just it's become such a part of our culture, unfortunately, that people almost at a point where they they see it as like some measurement of freedom, and it's not. I mean, it's just it's kind of I think it's like the scourge on our society, one of the biggest scourges on our society, and when you're exposed to something like that at a really young age, when your mind is developing, your worldview is developing. I mean, that stuff, and all of a sudden you're like exposed to some hyper sexualization like that. It can screw you up permanently, and you will. I mean, some of these kids, I've heard a lot of stories. I mean, obviously, mainstream media is going to shelter us from any stuff like that, but they're the long term like effects of being exposed to being hypersexualized at such a young age like that. It's just the ramifications of that are just they're like irreversible. So yeah, you can't be too careful, and it's just one of those subjects that we all have to get comfortable talking about this, because this is all new stuff. I mean, this is all this stuff that's going on right now. The access that like everybody has to that level of degeneracy at a um right at your disposal, right at at your fingertips like that at any time. This is like a new thing. It's something that society's never had to deal with, and so we'll see what the consequences. I mean, we're already starting to see what's happening. Like a lot of the younger generations, I know my generation, we came from that. We had a lot of exposure to um, stuff like that. I mean, I know I was definitely exposed to a lot of stuff like that. I mean, I think because I grew up in California and kind of the belly of the beast, and there was, gosh, I want to say like I think I was first, exposed to cigarettes when I was 7. I mean, I had friends that were like smoking full time, like chronic cigarette smokers at 7 years old, and starting to sneak alcohol out of their parents' cabinets at 7. And then by the time I got into junior high, most of my friends were like just chronic pot smokers. Oh, hey, welcome. Yeah, I started going off subject there, but we are supposed to be talking about bug out bags, and then here I am talking about pornography and uh, yeah, and just children being exposed to degeneracy. So I don't know. That's my opinion. I mean, those of you might feel safe about it, and I mean, not to say that all schools are like that. I'm sure there are some schools out there that really keep an eye on that, but it is something to consider, the cell phone thing. And I remember I was working. This was like probably 15 years ago or so. Wild Friday. Yeah, I was working. I was doing a job like about 15 years ago, and I hired my cousin, my youngest cousin, to help me paint a house. And I never really like knew him that well because he lived in a different part of the area. He's a lot younger than me, and so I just didn't really know. I just didn't really know him that well. And so we were doing this job together, and it gave me a chance to kind of like get to know him. And he's I guess he'd be like a Zoomer. He's in his 20s. And so we started talking about like the internet and and like the crazy stuff. And this is like back in, let's see, what year was this? 2010, 2010, maybe 2009. Yeah. And I was just shocked at the stuff this kid, and he was 15 when he was helping me. He's like a 15-year-old kid. And the stuff that he had already been exposed to on the internet, I couldn't believe it. So, and I was just thinking, man, that's gotta like do that's gonna have damage, man. I mean, for sure. I remember like being like the first time I remember I went to a friend's house and seeing I think it was like Nightmare on Elm Street, like the first one, and I was like 8 years old, and it was like that scene where that girl or whatever is being like ripped apart and she's going up the wall and the ceiling and there's just blood going everywhere, and I remember thinking like, oh man, I should not have seen this. And I'll never forget that. It was traumatizing, for a kid, and that's like child's play compared to the stuff they see now. That's nothing. India just stopped rice exports, 40% of the world's rice. Huh. I didn't. Where did you hear that? I haven't heard that. But anyways, all right. Well, we'll get off that subject. I just say, you know, homeschool your kids if you can. Um, and just lower your overhead. Don't give the banks any more money than you need to. I'll tell you that. It's the one beast we need to stop feeding is the banks. Um, but yeah, I think we were talking about EMPs right before that and how that would just be the most destructive thing I could think of. I don't know. I just can't see something like huge happening like that because I feel like any type of mass destabilization of our civilization, like on that level, would just it would make the elites it just make them too vulnerable. And you know, their whole thing is just power and control. And having an EMP and destabilizing the society like that, survival living channel, um, would it just put those, it would just compromise that, the more people, I think that's one of those things. It's like the more our country and our society and the people of this country um, endure these hits, when we have crazy things that happen, like the, like the whole COVID crisis thing, all those lockdown orders. I mean, I think that woke so many people up. I tell you what, I mean, that really woke a lot of people up. It made a lot of people very nihilistic about, or just untrusting of our government. Um, the whole Red Pill movement like really started to explode after that. And even the preparedness community really started to grow after that. So, um, yeah, so I don't think, I mean, our country can only endure so many of those things before it gets to a point where the people just really lose all faith and um just respect for authority. At that point, it's like it's almost like getting to the point where it's just we're gonna have chaos because people are not going to like have any like respect for the rule of law because it's becoming so obvious that it's just like a one way street. So there's only so many of those type events that the elites can like dole out, and still play it safe. But um so yeah, I mean, the only thing that I think is really realistic at this point is just kind of a slow boil type of like financial, like economic downturn. Just be slow. And I think they're going to try and sell. They're going to do like, I think that there will at some point, there's going to be a transfer of currency. We're going to be shifted. I don't know if that's the right word, but just slightly detoured or shifted or whatever into a new form of currency, and it'll definitely be digital. And I'm sure it will come with all sorts of tyrannical like contingencies. And one of the crazy, because like like with China, and they have their uh, their social credit score system. Let me read that comment. CDBC on the way. Um, Hold on one sec. Um, yeah, the social credit score. One of the craziest things I heard that's come out of that, like one of the rules of the social credit, whatever stuff that's going on in China, is so you basically your money, let's say you have a job. Well, the money you never, the money just goes into your account, right? From whatever job. Like there's just no more cash or anything like that or depositing checks. It's just the money just gets directed straight into your account. And and in China, I know there's a certain amount of time where their cash, their money will actually expire if they don't spend it in a certain amount of time. So you're forced to spend your money. So you're not even allowed to save money. And like that's where it's gotten to that point. So you can't take the money that you've earned and put it into any type of like tangible thing. Everything's just digital. So nothing tangible will be made available. So, you even if you're like, I'm going to transfer my digital currency into silver, well, you couldn't even do that because they would probably just outlaw the ability of, probably owning silver, um, or just even buying it anymore. And they just probably put like huge restrictions or penalties or I don't know. Um, probably just huge taxes on silver to where it wouldn't even be like lucrative to purchase it. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing. If they ever get to that point where they can do that, I mean, the sky's the limit as far as like how much just draconian measures they can place on that. So that's a scary place. Definitely a scary place to be. Um, So that's pretty much it. I think I've gone through everything. Um, that's pretty much it. Unless you guys have anything you guys want to discuss, be happy to hear from you and answer any questions or whatever. But if you're just showing up, I pretty much went through everything. Went through the bug out bag I've been building. I was thanking everybody for hitting my 5,000 subscriber mark. I can't believe that I've done that. I got up to 5,000 subscribers in less than a year. I'll be like celebrating my 1 year uh, anniversary on YouTube next month. So, to hit 5,000 subs in less than a year was huge. So, and the thing is too, when I created this channel, it happened all quickly. I really was just like, I'm not going to put very much. I'm going to try to create videos that I would want to watch. And that's all I was doing. I was like, I was sick of like going on YouTube, and I was like looking for something on all these prepper channels and just not finding it. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start creating the stuff I want to see, and uh, we'll see what happens. you know. So, and I think a lot of the prepping channels that were out there were just getting kind of stale. It's just a lot of people that have been around, um, and they're still putting out good content, but it's just like, hey, it's the internet. It's like it's open for anybody. I mean, and so I just was creating content that I'd like to see, and you know, there's just there's always room for there's always room for just a different take on things. So this channel, I didn't want it to be hyper focused on any one thing. I mean, the fact is just kind of like I do like a mixture of stuff. And I was like listening when I first started out. I was kind of like, how do I do a YouTube channel? I don't even know. And it was kind of telling me like, well, you want to start doing like, stay as niche as you can. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I want to, because there's so many different facets of preparedness that I enjoy, that I want to do videos on. Like, I don't want to just be the guy that just builds, survival shelters, or the guy that just builds bug out bags. Um, Bags are a must. I know. Yeah, bags are a must, and they're obvious. Well, they're a must to be a successful channel too, because it's like 90% of what my viewers want to see. So, but that's cool. I mean, I love putting bags together. The thing about the bags, I tell you though, it's like the bug out bag videos. It's like the worst part that comes from it is like it just brings out like so much hate. Like, it's crazy how many guys out there are just like, um they just get so like, take things so personally in that area. And the different, they're just so uh like convinced that you're doing stuff wrong, or like, or everybody's coming. It's kind of interesting to hear. And it's probably just the people who are commenting. I mean, most people, it's either going to be, I don't know. I think negativity just draws more people to want to comment. Um, and most totally unconstructive. It's just based on like total fantasy. Like, and everybody, the one thing I can never really understand, because I get this, it's the most common comment that I get. Need to get angry with those, they different, yeah. But people get upset, man. They get upset about how you go about doing things. And the thing that I swear generates the most anger, and I get it all the time, and it's, what's funny is it's good for my videos, because the more comments the better. So that, people want to just send there and send hate, it's like, go at it. It's just like, it's just boosting the video more. So um but it's this mindset of people always want to start out like as minimal as possible. Like, they just think that minimalism is like the best approach. And I can't understand that, because it's just like, it's a flawed philosophy, because they're just going into the situation thinking the absolute like worst case scenario that would create a situation where all I basically could have is a knife, and that's it, and so you might as well just start out that way. It's kind of like, you're never going to be able to have an A, so you're just going to flunk, so you might as well, like, or you're never going to succeed at this, so you might as well just fail yourself before you even get going. There's no point, and it's like, there's no point in trying to make yourself comfortable. It's never going to work, so you might as well just accept like the worst case scenario and limit yourself as much as possible. It just doesn't make sense. you know my philosophy would be like, um it's kind of the same argument that I give to people who are like against they like back when I was in California, I always run into like the libs, like the anti-gun people. um Hold on, let me read that. Stay Survive said, that's the bushcrafting fantasy. In my opinion, primitive fire is cool, bit a bit lighter, and fire tabs is better. Yeah, exactly. It's like, why would you hinder yourself like that right from the get-go? I just don't understand, if it's, you didn't need to. So it just makes so much more sense from a prepping standpoint, especially like if you are like, obviously, if I'm fleeing this house, why why would, if I can flee in a vehicle, I'm going to flee in a vehicle, you know? And then if it turns out that, like, oh, that was a bad idea, well, then I can get out of the vehicle at that point. It just seems, it just seems like such an obvious thing. Um, I agree. I'd rather not use up all my energy rubbing. Yeah, sticks together. Exactly. So it's kind of this philosophy or this mentality. And I'd always use this argument with people, with the anti-gun people that always say, well, what do you need an AR-15 for? And I go, well, here, I'll give you a good reason. If you're in your house, the fact is that you have no idea what's going to come busting through your door, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're in your house and somebody came into your house and said, hey, something's going to come through your door, it might be one guy with a stick coming to rob you, or it could be six guys with guns coming to rob you. I don't know. It could be somewhere in there. uh, and they said and here you have so many weapons to choose from. You can choose. Here's a bat. Here's a knife. Here's a revolver. Here's a semi-auto pistol, and then here's an AR-15 with like a 100 round drum. Like, why would you hinder yourself and go, I'll take the revolver. That should be sufficient. It's like, I just don't know why you would limit yourself like that. It's like, well, if you had the AR, it doesn't matter what comes through that door, you're going to be able to stop it. Why wouldn't you want to utilize like the maximum amount of defense? It doesn't make any sense from just a self preservation standpoint. It just seems so basic to me. So yeah, I mean, you start out, you go for um, some amount of preparedness, and then you allow the situation to determine what you need. Don't let your imagination or whatever determine what you need. So yeah, that's always been a strange one to me. Or people will say, "Oh, I'm not even going to bother getting that thing because I'm just not even going to bother getting that thing because like some totally unplausible situation, like like I would get a water filter, right? And I get a water filter that blocks out just about every type of pathogen and uh every type of like chemical component you could think of, and you always get that one smartass that just goes, "Well, what if the air is contaminated? Then that water filter is not going to do you any good." So it's like, oh, okay, so I might as well not even try. So just that kind of mentality, just a very fatalistic mentality. So I tell you what, guys, I hate wearing glasses. I hate that my eyes have gone bad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to use a screwdriver to hammer a nail. So yeah, people just they lack the ability of like critical thinking or just rational thinking. So yeah, you go for the thing that's going to give you the optimal amount of survival, of self preservation, and because at the end of the day, you don't know what's coming. You don't know if it's going to be a tank or it's going to be a guy with a stick. So you pick maximum preservation, and because I tell you what, I think a lot of people too, they just don't have a lot of experience with like hitting hard times. Because I tell you, like when you like that's what's made me this way. A lot of people just think I'm whatever paranoid. And, I mean, I've always been into preparedness type stuff and guns and everything. Yeah, yeah, it's the worst. But that when we hit that economic crisis, that's the thing that really like changed me, and I just went into preparedness full full blown because it was just such a wake up call. And most people just haven't been homeless. They haven't experienced what that's like, and that how quickly it can happen. I mean, it can happen really quick. You can just be, and it happened to me really quick, and it happened to me when I was where I was trying really hard. I mean, I wasn't, and I didn't go, when I say homeless, it's not like I ended up on the streets. I had, friends and family. I was places to go, but I mean, like, as far as like me being able to provide for myself, it had completely collapsed um, under the weight of the economy. I mean, the way I was set up financially, first little blip in the economy, and my whole, my whole um, life financially just collapsed because everything was on loan, which is what everybody told me. I was like going just with that stupid philosophy of like, you got to borrow money to make money. So I was like, okay. So yeah, it's just not a viable way of getting through things. Let me see here. Doop. Nope. Just checking some things. So like I said, I had this GoPro. I was going to do the live stream from this, but it wasn't working. Yeah, getting out of debt it is the number one thing. A lot of people don't like hearing it. It's not a popular subject because a lot of people can't do it. I get it. But if our ancestors weren't preppers, most of us wouldn't be here. Millions died during the Depression. Yeah, very true. And I hear that excuse a lot too. Like people saying, like younger people, like, I don't want to have kids. Like this world is just like, it's too grim. Like, I don't want to have a family. I wouldn't want to bring kids into this world the way things are. And like, dude, I totally get that. I fully understand that. I felt the same way. But the fact is, it's like, our ancestors, like, were having children under much worse times than what we're going through now. Um, people were still having kids when like the plague was, uh, you know, scouring decimating the earth. During the Great Depression, there was like literally nothing to eat, and they were still having kids, still populating the world. So we got to do it. I mean, the future is the kids. You got to have kids, and you have to do everything you can to raise them right. And it's tricky in this kind of world because it's everything that's taking place, and it's stressful. Um, it's just a stressful time. And I was fortunate enough. I didn't think I was going to be able to. I was going to be able to pull off having a family age because I just barely got under the under the I don't know, what would you call it, the radar there. I just barely made it, but I think I hit like it was like 38 when my wife got pregnant with our first, or 39. I don't know. I know she's watching this. She should chime in. Chime in, honey. Tell me how old I was when we had our first. It was like 38 or 39. Anyway, she has a channel. She needs to put more content out. She should be chiming in any minute now, unless she's still putting the kids to bed. She keeps changing in the name of her channel, so I can't ever plug her channel. But it's like Homestead Family Idaho or something. Anyways, I'll try to link it in the description here. But anyway, so I was lucky. I remember so before I met my wife, it's funny. So this was when we first started dating. This was like the first bag I got her. I got her a get home bag, and then or actually what it was is I bought two of these just because they were a good deal, and then we never did anything with them, and she had a bug out bag, and then I got a new one, and then I gave her my old one, which was still a really nice bag. Um, so she has, a bug out bag. I have a bug out bag plus a get home bag, and I was like realizing that she didn't have a get home bag in her car. That she's got some. I put some stuff in there, some basic stuff, but so I was like, I'm gonna, you know, pull this really nice get home bag that I bought for her 12 years ago, and turn it into a get home bag, and we can put it in the vehicle. So that's what I did today, and right now it's just I'm creating these bug out bags based on the heat because right now it's so hot. But anyways, yeah, I was able to um, meet my wife and establish a family like really quick. Just I got just under the proverbial radar, if you will, or whatever, just before I started getting really old. So, uh, um, so there's some upsides to having kids later in life, and then there's definitely and there's some downsides to it. One, you're more prepared financially. I'm a lot more calm, obviously. I mean, I was a lot crazier when I was younger. I don't know if I would have done really well having kids, but now, I'm older, but I don't have the energy that I used to when I was young, and the stamina, and I still got a lot of energy, but it's, I'm sore now, stuff like that. So piggyback rides are just not very fun on the knees. 39, there she is. Homestead Family, Idaho. Check out the channel. She's just making some apple butter the other day, and she's mastered sourdough bread. So just got to get her to put some videos out on making that stuff. But so yeah, I'm glad I went that direction. I had this like moment of clarity right before I got married, committed to her, and started on the path of building our family. But right before that, it was like this. I knew I was at a crossroads, and I'm like, I can either keep on this single life, and thankfully I didn't, because at that time things were actually going really well. So there was like a lot of incentive to just stay single at that time, because I was making money, like I was doing really good. That's all I'll say. But things were going good. But I'm like, I can't, I'm going to reach a point. I just knew that if I really was at this crossroad where, as much as I was like, this single life is fun, it's got its perks and everything. Um, I'm going to get older, and, hold on, what does this say? Keep extra stuff in the truck to perfect the get home bag for the situation I'm facing. Um, yeah, so I don't know. I feel like I'm cruising down a road. I'm gonna say something that's gonna get me in trouble, so should probably not go down that road. But anyways, it's thank God I did that, and buckled down, and created a family, and it's tough. I'll tell you that it's tough, but if I had just stayed single and didn't have family, didn't have kids, and it was where I don't know where it would just been bad. I just know. I mean, I had a lot of like different like family members and people that did that, and I think I was looking at their life and just going, I don't want that. I don't want to be. I don't want to be. You know, old and alone. Is basically what it came down to. So I'm glad I made that decision, but holy cow, life is and now I'm busier than I've ever imagined. So, especially in the prepping department, because now I'm preparing, and I was prepping like before I settled down and had a family, I was prepping. I started prepping a couple years before that it happened, before I got married and had kids. Um, um, what was I talking about? And so now it's like, now I got, now I have four people that are more valuable than me. That's the other thing. It was like easy when I was just preparing for myself. You don't worry as much, and almost like entertaining the whole like, apocalypse was a lot easier and romantic and fun. Now it's not so much fun. Now it's like, now when you're a family man, you're married, you have children, it's like now, like thinking about like preparing is like, it's not fun. I'm doing it from more of like a necessity standpoint, and like this is something that has to be done, and there's a lot of fear behind it. No romance behind it at all. The last thing I want to happen is to end up in a situation where my family and I are living off of this stuff, and having to defend ourselves with firearms. It's not a place that I want to be. But yeah, just being honest, I mean, it seemed cool when I was single, and it was like almost like a cool fantasy. And then you have kids and things get real. And but we're doing good. I swear, it's like one of the greatest preps I got once we moved out here. We got a homestead, and we were out in the country in a more rural area. It was getting chickens. That had totally changed everything. Like having chickens is like the greatest thing ever. Having this constant renewable food source, and a really healthy food source at that, is just such a it's such a good feeling. It's just such a gift. And we're in a nice area to be able to do that. I'm so grateful. And yeah, we got a nice, good, healthy flock this year. We got 23 chickens. So super excited. They're all producing eggs now. And yeah. Yep, it's so far so good. Um, but yeah, it's funny. I just kind of was before I started this um, show tonight. I was like, I don't even know what's going on in the. I really don't follow the news. You know what I actually follow, believe it or not. Like the one thing that I do when I wake up in the morning and I come outside, I look up into the air, and um, I pay attention to the air traffic, because to me, we're like not too far from a major airport. Chickens are number one animal for homestead, in my opinion. Also, a big fan of sheep. Yeah, we were considering getting some sheep, just from a standpoint of trying to not. We have so much. We have a lot of stinging nettles on our property. I mean, just tons of stinging nettles and weeds and stuff. And so we were gonna get some goats just from that standpoint, just to kind of keep the weeds and the stinging nettles down. But and it'd be cool to milk them, but I started looking into it and reading into it. If you're getting sheep for to milk, you just have to you have to milk them every day. And I'm not going to be around. I mean, I'm going to wait for my kids to get a little bit older. Once my kids are a little bit older and they can start helping out with that kind of stuff. I mean, they're helping out with the chickens a little bit, but I mean, they're still really young, and to the point where, I mean, they can barely get the egg from the nesting box to the house without dropping it and breaking it. So just not quite ready for the responsibility of sheep, so, or milking sheep for that matter. But that'd be cool. And my wife's always talking about getting like a small cow for milk. But even like a small cow, those will produce like an insane amount of milk. How much milk do they produce? Homestead Family, Idaho. How much milk does a small cow produce? It's like 2 gallons a day. So at